In this video, we're going to talk about SAT writing. We're going to talk specifically about pronouns as subjects. Subject pronouns such as it or they may replace a subject within a sentence. Now, you need to remember, you can have a sentence without it making sense out of context. Big thing for the SAT writing is to remember that one fact. Now, just think of any sentence where you could put any subject-verb combination. The dog eats. We go back to this example because it's a pretty simple one. Dog eats. We have this, it's a complete sentence. We have a subject and verb. We can get rid of the dog and replace it with it. If we say it eats, even though there's no context there, that's still a complete sentence within the English language. That's not a fragment. Consider that a sentence. Now, group pronouns are where things get a little bit tricky. So group pronouns such as much, many, few, and etc. replace the subject in a sentence, and they're sometimes followed by the phrase of them. Now, when you do that and just use many of them blank, that's still a sentence that can completely replace the subject and be a complete sentence. However, when following a group pronoun with of which or of whom, you create a dependent clause. That is no longer a sentence. So let's just give an example of which. Many of them like Drake. Now we have this sentence here, many of them, even though it's not specified who many of them are, this is still considered a complete sentence within the English language. We can even drop of them and say many like Drake, and that would still be considered a complete sentence. However, if we replace that of them with of which or of whom, many of which like Drake, that is no longer a complete sentence. So let's look at the question below. The tomato is used by cooks around the world. Most of them believe that it is a vegetable rather than a fruit. Now let's look at our potential options here. We're using most of them. And when we use most of them, that would imply that we need to have two separate sentences, because we know that using that subject pronoun in addition with of them and the verb believe, that makes a complete sentence. We actually have all the elements of a sentence there. So no change cannot be the correct answer. If we were going to have most of them, it would not be a comma into a dependent clause at the end of the sentence. It has to be a complete sentence, so either that most of them has to change or we need to turn into a proper sentence. Now let's look at them. World most, then this is the same issue. Just because we got rid of them, we still have a complete sentence there with most believe. So we're going to need to get rid of that. There can't be just a comma there. Now let's look at the last two options. We have world period, most of whom, world period, most of them. Now we remember that of whom will create a dependent clause, so we can't use a period in that case to make it a separate sentence. That would mean C is our correct option. Most of them is still considered a complete sentence, and it has the correct use of a period between world and most.